What is reading? Reading is a process that involves a lot of aspects that include symbol decoding, letter recognition, understanding the meaning of words until comprehension is formed, and also knowing the meaning of the words automatically in order for reading to be considered fluent. Reading is fluent coordination of word recognition and comprehension. Role of morphology and contextual analysis in vocabulary development. Morphology is the study of word parts, their structure and forms. By knowing the beginning of the words, prefixes, and the ending of the word, suffices the root of the word, the often standalone sound of the word, and the affixes, additions to the root word like dis and yun, learners can easily decipher unfamiliar terms by breaking them down into meaningful parts. Contextual analysis involves using surrounding words and sentences to infer the meaning of unknown words. By incorporating morphology and contextual analysis, learners can expand their vocabulary, improve word recognition skills, and enhance reading comprehension. Evidence-based practices for teaching phonemic awareness to English learners. Literacy teaching for English language learning students should include intensive language development. This may mean first introducing a wide range of vocabulary before introducing grammar. This may also mean that teaching English literacy that would be used daily by the student should be given priority in the learning space. There should also be concentration on bridging the gaps of the student's knowledge. For example, if the student is missing an English phoneme from their native language, this should be given priority learning coverage for the student. Phonological awareness should also be of high importance, and exposure to fun, motivating phoneme engagements such as poems, songs, and games should be ensured. Utilizing an English learner's home language for phonics development. First, literacy in the native language is an advantage. Teachers should be aware of the native language and bridge their students' current understanding of sounds, phonetics, and segmenting as much as possible. Any commonality between languages can help, and exploring the differences and similarities can steady the foundation in English literacy. Encouraging bilingualism and literacy in both languages can foster cognitive development and literacy skills in English learners. Components for effective comprehension and strategies for English learners. To achieve effective comprehension, students need well-developed language skills, multiple higher-order thinking processes, and the ability to self-correct. English learners can benefit from comprehension strategies like predicting, summarizing, questioning, visualizing, and making connections to enhance their understanding of texts. Providing explicit instruction on comprehension strategies, scaffolding reading materials based on language proficiency levels, and encouraging metacognitive reflection can improve comprehension outcomes for English learners. Utilizing evidence-based best practices to improve comprehension in English learners with reading difficulties and dyslexia. For English learners with reading difficulties and dyslexia, evidence-based best practices focus on personalized intervention, explicit instruction, and multisensory approaches. But similarly, what is so important for English language learners is exposure. Exposure. EL students need exposure to higher learning texts, vocabulary, and purposeful reading. One personal example of my own is being abroad. You notice the limited resources of children's literature being sold in bookstores. English learning often tends to include texts that seem boring and unappealing compared to the beautiful children's literature offered in the States or other English-speaking countries. In Saudi Arabia, many of the children's books available are limited to fairy tales, ABC-focused learning. It lacks the complexity of high-energy characters and the eventful hijinks or the wildness that many American children have access to in their own bookstores or libraries, thus making English reading less motivating and perhaps even unappealing to EL students. By giving students multiple avenues of exposure and experience, they are able to find a way to be encouraged into reading more and having more exposure for vocabulary. This can also include figurative language that students miss out on with basic stories rather than enriched texts. As for supporting English learners with reading challenges, tailoring instructional strategies to address individual needs and strengths, providing systematic and explicit instruction on phonics and decoding strategies, and incorporating multisensory activities can make the biggest difference. Implementing assessment-driven instruction, monitoring progress regularly, and providing targeted interventions based on evidence-based practices can help improve comprehension and reading outcomes for English learners with reading difficulties, including dyslexia.